Welcome to Toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Today we're going to take a look at the mego 1979 Buck Rogers and Twiki figures. As you can see here, I have a boxed mego 12-inch Buck Rogers and a loose version of the 12-inch equivalent wind-up Twiki figure, as you can see here on the left. So let's take a closer look at the box version of Buck Rogers, and we can then open it up and see what the figure looks like inside. These 12-inch figures were produced in 1979 to coincide with the release of the telemovie version of Buck Rogers that preceded the series that ran for a couple of years. As you can see here, this is the box version of Buck Rogers. This was one of a number of figures that you could get online. If I turn it over, you can see the other ones. There are only 7 produced, and they never produced Wilma, which was a real shame. So you can see here on the back we've got Buck, we've got Twiki, Dr. Hewer, Killer Kane, Draco, Tiger Man and the Draconian Guard. Now the easiest ones to get of this range are of course Buck and Twiki. The rest are slightly harder, and you'll have more and more difficulty finding them loose with all of their bits. You can still find them boxed relatively easy, but if you want a loose version with all of the bits, they are getting increasingly hard to find. As you can see on the back, we've got nice artwork showing the figures, and on the side and sort of bottom end, not a lot of detail. It just says Buck Rogers in the logo that was used for the TV show, and it tells you which figure you have in the box. The boxes were universal for all the larger 12-inch figures. The Twiki one came in a slightly modified box. So let's get this figure open and we can see what Buck looks like in the flesh. So here we have Buck straight out of the box, and I have to say I think mego did a really nice job of not only the sculpt for the head of Buck. It does look a lot like Buck Rogers, but I think the body of the 12-inch figures are much better than the 8-inch ones that they produced. If we take a closer look at Buck, you can see he's got quite a nice sort of outfit on. It's made of a sort of nylon-y fabric. Over the years they do tend to stain a bit. This one has been in its box for years and it still has a few bits of staining on it. Nothing much you can do about that apart from wash it. The only problem with that, of course, is that this one has a paper emblem on the arm of it here. So washing it is not an easy job. You've got to remove that first. And that's one of the things I never did like about this figure, the fact that this was a paper little emblem on the side and so wore away. And quite often when getting loose versions of Buck, you'll see this has just been torn and ripped off, so it's always something to look out for. The figure does have particularly muscly legs, as you can see here, and wears some very strange sort of clog shoes. Not the sort of shoes I would have expected him to wear, but they sort of go with his outfit. The figure comes with a belt, as you can see here, which clips on the back. It's got a few little stickers on it, and if we unclip this little holster here, you'll see there's a gun in his holster, and this does sort of fit in his hand. Not particularly easy. The hands are made of quite a hard plastic, so getting the gun to stay in his hands is a little bit awkward. In fact, I can't even get it in there today, so I'm not going to bother. So best off just leaving that in the belt there. Like so. The face sculpt is really quite nice. It's one of the better ones of this 12-inch line. If you compare it to the 3 3/4-inch mego Buck Rogers that I have here, you'll see that it does actually looks like him. The little 3 3/4-inch one is probably one of the worst of the line. Not a particularly good likeness, but this large one does look really nice. If you've got Buck Rogers, then of course you've got to have his sidekick and companion Twiki. And here you can see the 12-inch scale version of Twiki that mego produced. Now this, I have to say, again, is not my favourite of figures. I do like Twiki as a character, but it's a bit disappointing that they made the equivalent 12-inch size one a wind-up version of him. So he's made out of a hard plastic. His arms do move, and he's got little pincers on his arms there. But his legs are wind-up, and as you can see, they don't look particularly good. Now this toy is nearly, what's this one? It's about 35 years old, and the wind-up mechanism does just about still work. If I wind him up, you can see that his legs, well, almost get there. I'm guessing it's just the spring has gone with the age of him, so do watch out for that if you're collecting them. Sometimes the wind-up mechanisms work, sometimes they don't. I've yet to see one where the wind-up mechanism actually works particularly well, but it doesn't really detract from the figure because you just want him to stand next to Buck Rogers. And with this larger version of Twiki, I have to say I think the smaller 3 3/4-inch version is much better. If you can see it here, the detailing is just about as good, but this little guy has much more articulation. You can bend his arms at the elbows, he's got a swivel waist, you can bend his legs at the knees. It just is a much better constructed figure, so it is quite a shame that the large version doesn't stand up to the quality of the big Buck Rogers. It's just not quite as good. In the late 70s and early 80s, Mego went through a wave of producing larger figures like this to tie in with movies, and they produced some for the Black Hole, James Bond, and also Star Trek the motion pictures, and they're all particularly nice figures. Overall, I actually think the Buck Rogers doll here is a particularly good one. It's one that's well worth getting and adding to your collection. The Twiki, on the other hand, I still think is a bit disappointing, and I wish that they'd not gone down the wind-up route, because it really doesn't add anything to the figure. It actually just makes it a bit of a naff toy, and they are also incredibly easy to break. More often than not, you'll see them with their legs broken off, so it just makes them that little bit harder to collect. Overall though, I do like these Buck Rogers figures, and I wish I had more of them. So far I've only managed to get these two to add to my collection, and I will be trying to add more as the years go by. I hope that's been of interest, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter and Facebook.